So, welcome to this episode of the podcast where we've been talking about preparation a lot. And so, we decided to do an episode on preparation and failure and the opportunities that we see every day.
Mm.
And I was just telling Skip, like, hey, you spend your time working and planning and strategizing, and most of it doesn't come to fruition. But every once in a while, it does. And people are like, oh, you're so lucky.
Well, it doesn't come to fruition the way you start out planning, I think is what the real deal is. Uh,
Yeah.
you know,
And
you, so you start out with this idea, with this vision, we're going to do this. And, life tends to mess with our plans. So,
true
but
that.
you gotta start somewhere. You gotta start, rolling down that road in some form or fashion.
Yeah, and that's why I like the iterative process so much. Is that you're sitting there and you start, okay, I have a general idea of where I want to be in a year or 3 years or 5 years. And you end up somewhere completely different. But it's because along the way, you discovered things. You had some incidents that happened like, oh, I didn't know that when I started this journey.
Hmm.
Let me move over there. Hey, by the way, behind me in my video, it's Inspiration Point. And so you feel inspired.
Yeah.
And you find things like, oh, wow, those things work together really well. Let's curve ourselves in that direction. And what kind of brings us up now is we just got accepted into Pitch It, and it's really cool. So
There we go.
more applause.
There we go. There we go.
And that means that we are a select part of a select group that is going to basically talk about who we are as a company and our vision as a startup, and figure out like how to meld that with the IT crowds out there. And it's a really great opportunity for us, but it came to fruition from a whole bunch of things we started doing last year. And then, we also started planning a big development push this year in 2022. We started planning that in November. We decided to join this Invent program where we get access to some backend API calls for our software. And all this is boring, I know, but
Hmm.
when it comes together, like we thought nothing was going to happen. Oh, and on top of all this, we were seeking some funding last fall that kind of disappeared. It like nothing happened from it. And so we've kept nurturing all these channels, and then all of a sudden here the last like 4 weeks, everything we were planning last fall came together all at once.
Yes, it just starts
But in the
falling into
meantime,
place.
we had been planning on cash flowing all these solutions like, oh, it'll just take us longer, we'll cash flow it. And all of a sudden, it's like, hey, the funding came through. Okay, now we can accelerate. Oh, we got accepted into Pitch It. Cool. Now we get extra marketing and extra help on designing out our solution. Oh, we got into the Invent program. Now we have access to new features and new calls we can make, and we're getting more marketing. This is awesome. So it's all this is happening at once, and you feel like the luckiest person in the world. But you think back to all the preparation it took to get to this point.
Yes.
You think, oh, this isn't so much luck. There is some luck involved, but a lot of it is this opportunity is now ahead of me.
Yeah. Well, and so we talked about this just a little bit before we started hit record, and so let me throw the engineer perspective out because I know a lot of our listeners, kind of come from the technical background, and if you're tackling technology problems, something's broke or you got to install something, you've got a pretty clear set of things that need to be done. Now, obviously, it's never going to go the way the install guide says it's supposed to go. All right, there's always going to be a problem or a challenge, but the problems tend to be right in front of you, and you usually can see the rewards or at least the effects of your efforts almost immediately. The fix for this problem is, install the new patch. Okay, I installed the new patch, that didn't work. All right, well, now you at least know what doesn't work, and you move on to something else. It gives you very, I guess it's a bit more of an instant gratification.
It's linear, it's
Yeah,
like if then.
yeah, it really is. And so I think that is for me, as back in my, more techie days, I liked that. I liked being able to grab a hold of a problem and work it into just as long as it needed to be worked, and then it was solved. And with business and in this very strategic element that we talk about all the time, that is not an instant gratification sort of process. It is not going to be something you see the immediate results for. And you really are going to have to, I guess, it doesn't come naturally for me. So I have to discipline myself. I really have to say, we're going to work on this. We're going to do this because I know eventually it's going to produce what we're wanting to do, at least something close to it. And you just have to keep at that.
For me, it's all about having like it's what in engineering we call it kind of race conditions. So you would have two solutions to the same problem going at the same time,
Yeah.
and one of them can be put in place. They can't both be put in place. So one team doing a solution isn't going to get used. And they know that going in, but one of the solutions is the ideal state. And we want that solution to work. But as the triage lead, you have to decide which one are you going to put into place based upon what risks and all this other stuff.
Mhm.
And running business is the same way. You have multiple things in place and stewing. You don't go everywhere. Don't spread yourself so thin you're doing all things at all time. No, you
Right.
look and you see your vertical, you see where you are, and you think, okay, what synergizes in this space? I hate using that word, it's such a shiny term. But like, I
Yeah.
knew that if we had our developer roadmap really going and we happened to get funding at any time, we could
Hmm.
accelerate the developer roadmap because we had everything in place.
Yes. It was a matter of
Or
just
if we,
pushing the button,
yep,
start.
and then if we had gotten the funding but not had the developer roadmap in place, well, now we have to spend 3-4 months figuring out the developer roadmap, what features we're going to put in place.
Hmm.
If we have the developer roadmap in place and we don't get the funding, well, we can still work through the developer roadmap.
Yeah.
And if for some reason some windfall happens for us, then we can use that windfall. And same thing with getting access to different companies like ConnectWise's API. If we happen to get access to that, we can use that in our developer roadmap to make things even better. But if we
Hmm.
don't get access to that, it's okay because the developer roadmap will still run. We'll just not have these cool new features. Or if we don't get the developer roadmap done and we have the API calls, well, we can start planning these things out, maybe some micro improvements and things like that. But if they all happen at the same time, really cool things happen.
Yeah.
And that's all preparation.
Yeah.
Sometimes everything you planned comes together all at once. And that's where luck is involved.
Oh,
Everything that you planned for happening all at the same time, that's interesting. Having everything happen at, kind of spread out over a year or two, that's more normal. And you're going to have
that's
some
right.
things like, hey, the funding fell through. Okay, what's your backup plan? What was your race condition there? Oh, well, the
Hmm.
backup plan was to go get a loan. The bank, maybe the backup plan is to sell equity in the business, and then you can show venture capitalists, hey, this is what we're going to do with this much cash and how it's going to make you money.
Yeah.
And so you have these things all going at the same time so that you can adjust iteratively as you're running the game plan. And that's why this preparation item is a key part of it, but also so is the failure component. Because
Oh,
when
yeah.
things fail, what's your backup plan? Do you have
Yeah.
one already? It's like Batman. He's always got a plan. No one beats Batman because he's already planned the contingency.
Yeah.
And
Contingencies for contingencies.
contingencies on my contingencies. And I tell people that if you play a board game with me or anything like that, I've got contingencies for my contingencies.
Yeah.
And that's probably what makes me so dumb when I play games is I'm trying to think through my backup plans and where I'm going and what I'm doing. And same thing in business. Like I've always got a backup plan. What happens if this happens? What happens if that happens? And you do that long enough, eventually things slowly improve because you're not just reacting. Like in engineering, we had this thing we call firefighting mode,
Hmm.
where you're sitting in a data center, you're sitting in your job, and you're constantly solving problems. You don't have time to forecast or think. And so
Right.
you're just moving from one problem to the other. And no one likes to be in firefight mode
Not permanently.
because
Right.
it just
Sometimes
gets
it's great.
worse and worse and worse. It's a train wreck of a
Hmm.
situation. Either you burn out or everything goes to hell, and then you end up in a very, very bad situation in IT. But if you can spend some time planning, saying, hey, we have this sick system. We need to replace it here in 6 months. We'll firefight it for the next 6 months, but we need to get that part on order so that we can replace everything.
Yeah. Well, I worked with a sales director for many years, and it took me a year or two to kind of spot this trend and all. And then after a while, I started giving him a hard time about the crystal ball that he had hidden in his office. It's like, where is it? I want to borrow your crystal ball, because he would start, in probably early November, but I really saw it in really, really high gear as he was putting the final touches on it in December. He would be making a sales forecast for the following year. And he had a term for it. I love it. It was pondercating. All right, that's a Texas term, just if you're wondering. So he
Pondercating.
pondercating. All right, and he would stand at the window, and we had great offices. I loved those offices, and in West Texas is really really short on nice views, and this had one of the nicer views. And so he'd stand at the window, sometimes for a long time. I'm like, Dale, are you okay? And he would put together this forecast. And here's the deal about it. He knew a lot about what was going on, but he didn't know exactly how we were going to hit those numbers. He had an idea, and he had some things that were going in there. But I think one of the great values of all that pondercation that he did was it provided some goals for everyone to work
Yeah.
through. And here's the deal with the crystal ball is at the end of the year, for I don't know how many years, we hit that number almost on the tee. And I'm like, how did you do this? And we had I guess you would classify us as a hyper growth company during several of those years. And so it all came down to the little phrase that I've come up with is make a plan, work the plan, review the plan. And it's this cycle you have to continue to go through. And at the end of those years, sometimes we might hit our numbers, but we would do it in totally unexpected ways. And that was what I thought was really hilarious, because we'd have some new deal or some new opportunity come through, but we were working towards a vision. We had a goal that specifically his team was really focused on, and it made a difference. It really did make a difference in where we could go with an organization because we were putting the prep time in beforehand.
And the saying, like, what happens when you aim at nothing?
Yeah, you hit your
You
foot.
invariably hit it. And that's the beauty of the iterative process is when you're thinking of one goal in mind. Like, for instance, I'm trying to get back in shape. For those of you who didn't know, I was an All-American in college, very very athletic, very very in shape, and then I took 20 years off. I had my
I know
stints
that.
with
I can
Beachbody and little things
relate.
here, but never. And I was always like, oh, I'll get to 270s, and I'll get in shape, kind of, and eventually I would
Round
get
is a
there and I'd
shape.
be done. And but my goals have shifted now. So it's like I want overall fitness.
Hmm.
There's no time in which I will be done. I am gonna continually aim down the road. And I'm down like 25 pounds since I started this journey last year. And it's not just that, but it's the overall fitness, the health,
Yes.
and some of
Yes.
the ancillary benefits. Like, I've taken up more hobbies. I get out more. I find myself energetic in the evenings to go do things with the kids. And there's all these incidental benefits to having the goal of being overall more fit and having these little milestones along the way of like, I want to lose 10 more pounds. I want to lose 3 pounds this week. I want
Hmm.
to be able to do this many more push-ups. Just these little things, these iterative that are helping me get to my ultimate goal of being fit again.
Yeah.
And sure, maybe I'll never be as fit as I was in college because who has that 4 hours a day to work out and somebody yelling at you to do it?
You need an
Um,
Instagram. You need to be an Instagram influencer, fitness influencer.
yeah,
We
yeah,
got the
no
time.
way. But the goal, the idea there is that you're working towards something. So in your
Yeah.
business, like, what are you working towards? I have this vision in my head, and it's kind of like that pondercation, as you said,
Mm.
of where I want the company to be in 5 years. I've got this in my head. I know which clients I would like us to have. I know generally how I want the website to flow through. And that leaves some wiggle room for when our members say, hey, it'd be great if we did this instead. I say, oh, yeah, that is good. And we can just turn the ship a little bit.
Yeah.
And, eventually we'll have this ship that's going, but we'll never be at our destination. We will always be guiding in this general direction of being the best we can be in the world, where our goal, that is the goal, is to be the best, which I think we are. But to keep there, you've got to continuously improve. You're not just in shape. You got to continually work on your body. You got to continually work to keep yourself where you are and to improve, because so is everybody else. But knowing who you are, what your business is, where you're going, that is that preparation. And so that when that opportunity comes up, you can say, is that an opportunity my business wants to take advantage of? Yes or
And
no?
I think there's going to be a lot of really unknowns along the way. Um, we've got lots of plans and things that we're looking at. And, to some extent, we talk about some of our really long term visions. And I think those are great ideas. I'm listening to this conversation we got going on, and I got all these ideas going off in my head, and like, that would be amazing. But then I step back, and the kind of the operational side of me comes out and goes, good grief, how are we going to get there? And I immediately start thinking of all the things that won't work, because of the way things are right now. And that's got to be, for me, that is a really challenging balancing act. And I think I'm getting a little better at it. But to be able to see a vision and a goal that you want to achieve and be able to work on it without really understanding exactly how you're going to get there,
Yeah.
that's kind of a scary place, but it's kind of exciting as well.
And I've told this to a couple other business owners and leaders, and I sit there and I go, you have to prepare and you have to define so you can say no. And
Hmm.
that's really important for people listening to this podcast. If your policy or your vision doesn't allow you to say no, you're failing. You're doomed for failure, because what happens is you start saying yes to everything. Look at churches, for instance. They're really bad at this. Oh, they're going to support every charity. They're going to
Yeah.
help everyone out.
Yep.
Well, if you help everyone out, you end up helping no one,
Right.
because you're spread thin, your dollars are gone, and you've accomplished nothing.
Hmm.
But if you set a goal in your company, we are a software company bent on changing the way IT is done by helping people have better conversations with their clients. A statement like that, a mission statement like that, allows you to say, when an opportunity comes up that says, hey,
Yes.
you should get
Yeah.
into ticketing as a software. I look down that and go, you know what? That's an interesting idea. Not us.
Right. Right.
And I can say no. Or someone might say, hey, I've got this company I'm selling. Would you like to buy it? Like, not really interested in selling ice cream right now. It's a great opportunity. And I'll see if I can't find somebody who's aligned with that opportunity,
Hmm.
so that they can say, hey, did you know that blah, blah, blah is selling their company? They only want like 120,000 for the storefront. I can help you
Yeah.
raise that. I can help you build it out, whatever it is. And so I can line them up. That's that networking opportunity item.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
enough people that somebody's like, oh yeah, I know Bill or I know Alice. They definitely would. That's right where they want to be. They want to own an ice cream front.
So maybe
Adam
you don't need to
Walter
be
does
a
not want
serial.
to own an ice cream store right now.
Yeah, you don't need to be a serial entrepreneur who jumps on every good idea that comes along.
I want synergize. I want things that synergize with what we're doing. So
Yeah.
when I bought managed services platform, it synergized with our membership community and what we were doing with coaching, and it has allowed us to become something even more. And that's part of where we are today. This is a lot of work to get to where we are, but you have to be able to say no to things like, do you want to be a remote monitoring tool? Well, technically that's in our vertical, but it
Mhm.
is not part of our mission statement.
Right.
I want other people to succeed there. And if there was an opportunity there, I'd say, hey, you know what? I know somebody who would, definitely be interested in getting into that field.
Yeah.
It's not us though, because I see so many entrepreneurs, they jump on everything they find. Oh
Everything.
my
Yes.
gosh,
This is awesome.
I could make so much money if I could make this work. Okay, focus on that. And then like 3 months later, they're like working on something else and something else and something else. I'm like, you never finished what you were doing in the first place. And now we're 3 years later and your business has failed because you didn't focus on one thing and
Mm,
do it really well. So there was a guy that was talking at the lounge about 4 weeks ago. I cannot remember his name on top of my head. Capital Scar Lounge here in Lincoln always has really great speakers coming in. And he said, do something better than anybody in the world as a business and you'll be good.
mm-hmm.
And that's kind of
Something.
where we are. And we're
Mm,
we're we're focused on that. We're focused on our vertical of helping our members have the best conversations with their clients that'll drive success for both the client and the MSP. That's what we do. We are not a doctor's office. We are not a vet. We are not a ice cream shop.
yep.
We are focused on what we are doing, and we're focused on being the best in the world at it. And that helps us to say no to some opportunities that come up. People are like, oh, why aren't you buying this? Why aren't you investing in that? Like, well, because right now our goal is this. This is
So
the iterative process. We have these things in the pipeline,
mm,
and it just so happens a lot of the preparation from the past few years has come to fruition this quarter, which is going to benefit our members in our community in insane ways. And it's going to attract new members because I think people are going to see like these guys really know what they're doing. There's going to be that confidence there. They're not just lucky, they're consistently good and delivering amazing things.
so how do you know when to say no? And I think some of you are going to really roll your eyes. If you're driving while you're listening to this podcast, be careful. Uh, but it comes down to those old processes they went through of writing a mission statement and understanding what your vision is. Now, I think corporate America and so many different exercises took that and abused it and made it something
I was just
awful,
about to make that exact
awful,
point.
awful stuff. All right. But at its core, if you kind of maybe roll back to the early days of that, I think there was a lot of value in that. Really understanding what it is your organization does and where your organization is going.
Yes.
And that, especially that vision, where are you going? And that long term plan is really going to help you make those decisions. Because when you come around, if you just rely on instinct. I feel like this is a good deal, or, this might pan out into be something profitable. You know, I've made business decisions based on that, and they've worked out. But did they really get me to where I wanted to go?
Yes.
And I think understanding where you want to go is, something that if you're responsible for, a significant portion of the business, or obviously a business owner, I think you need to sit down, not only, personally, but with your team, and really map this out so that everyone can be operating in this mode of, hey, this
Yes.
is where we're going. And we're going to be looking for things that are going to help us get there. We might not know what they all are right now, and that's okay. But if we have a good enough uh, definition, or a clear enough picture of what that looks like, when we come across things, we'll know whether they fit or not, but because we know where we're going.
Yes, that and I've said that a million times. Maybe we do a whole podcast episode on that. But when your whole company knows what your vision is, you
Mhm.
expand the amount of opportunities that you are going to have and reduce the amount of failure, or you increase the likelihood of failure and reduce the duration of failure, so that people
Mhm.
can recognize like we're not going in the right direction. We need to stop and turn.
Mhm.
Like when everybody knows that the vision of the company is to change the way IT is done by having better conversations rather than presentations, then we know that are we going in the right direction as a company? Are we fitting that goal? And so when we do sales meetings or when we talk to our existing members or new members, it's all about, are we helping this vision come to fruition? And the more, employees we bring on, the more people come on, every one of them knows what we're trying to do. And when they see an opportunity, like, oh my gosh, there's this company out there doing something similar, we should reach out to them, align with them.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Set up a meeting for me
Yeah.
and I will talk to them and we'll see what we can't work out. And now you're synergizing with another company or you're another opportunity that you would not have had because one of your employees said, hey, these people are doing something similar. Let's work with them. You would not have known about that before. Maybe they have a personal connection there or something you don't know about. In an MSP, it's the same thing. When everybody at your company knows what kind of clients you're looking for, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe there's a bonus for if you find us a new client, if you get us a lead and it turns into a new client, we give you $1,000 or whatever it is. And everybody knows when all 50 people at your NSP are all working together, the opportunities expand. Your preparation in creating a mission statement and a focused deliverable expands because everybody's selling now. Everybody's fixing now. Everybody's working in the same direction. And when you find out that something's not working out, somebody can say, hey, that's not working. We
Yes.
haven't been able to accomplish
Yeah.
that in 3 months. Like, why are we still
Yeah.
doing it? Stop.
Yes.
I'm not going to
Yes.
waste any more money on that. And so that's the third leg here is the failure. And we learn from failure, and a lot of things are going to fail. We want to fail fast. And there's
Yes.
a whole other topic on that we can cover
That
in another
is. Yeah.
podcast. Maybe
Yeah.
we can do that next week or something. Fail fast. But with the pitch it coming up, with all this stuff happening right now, we've learned from failures. We've had a lot of successes come to fruition all of a sudden. And now we're in a situation where we have like 4 or 5, potentially 5 things all happening at the same time that work together that would not have worked had we not recognized where things weren't working, had we not taken advantage of some opportunities, and we not spent a lot of time in preparation over the last couple of years to
Yes. The
get to where
time
we
in,
are
in
today.
preparation. Yeah. That is, and some of the things that we've been doing in the background, it's just like, some days I just feel like we're just banging away here, and we're not necessarily I'm not closing the ticket, I'm logging time and I'm not closing this ticket. And, it can be a little frustrating, but I do think, obviously what Adam and I are saying here is not new. I think if you hear some other business leaders talk, you will hear very similar messages in this. And you have to kind of trust that in some aspects. And for me,
Yes.
I feel fortunate that I've seen it work around me in businesses and with our members. And so, I've been trusting in this, and now it is kind of exciting because now we're starting to see some of these things close. We're seeing some of these things come together, even though I didn't really see the end of this, months and months ago. To see them come around now is pretty exciting. And the cool part about it, now it creates motivation for new visions and new plans.
Yes.
And so
And
what we do, we just keep this thing rolling.
yep. I think we're in an area where we are accelerating quickly after years of kind of like this. We're improving by any standards. We were successful and in growth, especially as a software company and consulting company. But now it's like, oh my gosh, there's somebody
Yeah.
threw some gas on the fire, and now we got to kind of back up and go, okay,
Yeah.
let's go. It's very exciting, or it's a little startlement, and then let's move forward. Now, how do you use this energy to move forward? So now you got to use the opportunity and all the preparation to continue forward and recognize where you're failing, so you don't take this opportunity and squander it.
Yep. Yep.
This
There
is
you
a
go.
great episode. I'm excited to be in Pitch It. I'm excited to have this opportunity ahead of us over the next 12 months. And I'm certain we'll have some people on as guest speakers from Pitch It here over the next few months. So we'll change direction. I'll probably have to interrupt my usual flow of podcasts, but we'll probably have some guest speakers from Pitch It on to talk through like business development, strategy, and enhancing your vision for the future. Thank you, Skip. And we will see everyone next week.
See you.